Welcome out to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B, coming at you from the 321. So Trump wants his face on Mount Rushmore. So check this out, guys. So I'm watching the other day. I'm watching some news, and I always watch Bill O'Reilly because he's pretty straight shooter. And he had someone on his show, and they were talking about, the speed and the amount of stuff Trump has been doing because, and Bill O'Reilly's been in news for over 50 years, and he says that he's never seen anything like it. And so the guest he had on his show asked him, he said, well, why do you think he's doing it? And Bill O'Reilly said, it's pretty simple. He wants to be on Mount Rushmore, and so I was listening to that, and I was thinking to myself, and it's kind of stuck in my head ever since. And, I've been following Trump since basically 2012. If you don't know, he was kind of planning on running in 2012, but it really didn't materialize, and I kind of started paying attention to him then. And of course, he ran in 2016, but so, I've covered him a long time, watching him, just seeing the way he does things, and everything Trump does is big, man. It's grandiose. It's it can't be small. In his mind, if it's small, it's a loser. You know what I'm saying? So, after watching Bill O'Reilly the other day, I was like, he's right about this, man, and that's right up Trump's alley. So, anyways, here's what I think. I think he's 100% right. I think Trump is he's not happy with a regular successful presidency. I think in his mind that would honestly be a loser. If you go back through history, you look at like the Bushes and Clinton and up through Obama, and of course Joe Biden didn't do anything really, but up through Obama, it seemed like every president was always expected to have 3 or 4 big signature items that they kind of solidify their legacy with, right? And like for example, Obama had Obamacare, right? And so I think every president wants to solidify something to for his legacy and to just give him some good history. Well, I don't think that's good enough for Trump. I really don't. I don't think that's satisfying to him at all. I think in his mind, he's going to fix everything over the next 4 years, or he's going to see it as a failure. Of course, you'd have to ask, well, why would he think like that? But here's the thing. Trump is a showman, and he's an egomaniac. He really is. But that's not always a bad thing. Some of the greatest men in the world that have done the greatest things, and to be honest with you, some of the worst things too, have all been egomaniacs. They feed off of, and their inspiration is their own ego, which again, done in the right direction is great. It's great for everybody around them. And Trump built the real estate empire that he's got, and he's got a great family. I mean, you look at what he has, and it's just all larger than life. But that's because he is who he is. I feel like there's 2 main things that are fueling Trump's inspiration for all this stuff that he's doing, okay? Number 1, I do think he loves America. He's always talking about it. He's always talked about it. You can go back to the 80s when he was on Oprah and everybody loved him, and he would always talk about how great the country is, and how other countries, and he was talking about China, in the 90s, saying other countries were taking advantage of us, and we're never living up to our full potential because of the way our trade was. So that's something that I would say that would be the number 1 reason. But I honestly think the number 2 reason for him trying to tackle this much stuff, I think it's revenge. I do. Look, they've tried to kill him twice. They tried to put him in jail. They raided his house in Mar-a-Lago. They're going through his wife's clothes. I mean, when somebody does something like that to you, it's either going to do one of 2 things, man. It's either going to break you, or it's going to make you super angry. Like angry to the point where you're kind of beside yourself. Now, you can't lash out physically in those situations, so I think that he just sat back and waited, and I think that anger's been festering in him. And I believe he's used that as fuel to do what he's doing because he knows if he pulls all this stuff off that he's doing, because there's a ton of it. Like, there's so much going on all the time. I can barely keep up, and I follow this stuff. But if he pulls this off, he's going to be the greatest president of modern times by far. He will far surpass Ronald Reagan if he pulls all this off. No doubt about it. He might be the greatest one ever since George Washington, truthfully. And to him, that's revenge for all the stuff they've tried to do to him. And because if he pulls it off, he's going to make them all look stupid. I mean, severely stupid. All the pundits, all the Democrats, everybody, all these supposedly smart people that, know everything about everything. No, he's going to make them all look dumb if he pulls this off because they all said he couldn't do it. And in the end, to a guy like him, that's the ultimate revenge. There's nothing better. You're collapsing these other people's egos, and in the meantime, you're getting your name on or your face on Mount Rushmore, right? What's better than that? And I think that's the way he sees it. Now I think there's a few things that he's going to have to do to solidify getting his face on Mount Rushmore. Number one, okay, I think he's going to have to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. And I think they're going to get there. It's taken a little time, which, that's normal. But I think they're going to get there. In the beginning, he said, yeah, I'll have that war stopped overnight. But, we all knew that wasn't true. That it doesn't work that way. Overnight in politics is like a year. You know what I'm saying? There is no overnight. So, but he's been working hard on it. I think he's going to get it done. So that's the number one thing, okay? And that will get him a Nobel Peace Prize 100%. If he doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize from that, then the Nobel Peace Prize is garbage because it wouldn't mean anything anymore. You stop a war, you're saving, hundreds of thousands of lives. Yeah, he's going to win that. Number two, if he pulls the tariff move off, which he's working on now, and there's a lot of tension right now. The markets all suck. Heck, my money's down too, but I'm not worried about it, But if he pulls the tariffs off, it's going to reset, American trade for probably the next 30 to 40 years. Because here's the thing. If it works like he's planning on it is, long after he's gone, they will use his system as a roadmap for future success. So it won't matter if he's the president anymore. You'll get J.D. Vance for a while, and then it'll be somebody else, and then a Democrat will win. But they'll always be able to look at those tariffs as a roadmap to success, so they can always lean back on them. And that that's the way they always do it. It's precedent, right? What did they do in the past that works? We're going to continue to do it in the future. So that will set the the future up for, I would say, probably 30 to 40 years. So you've got the tariffs, you've got stopping the war. To me, the third thing, and this isn't quite as big as those, but I'll tell you what, it's going to make him a hero. If he gets no tax on Social Security and no tax on tips, that's going to be complete acceptance by the people. Because let me tell you something. All these young cuckoo kids running around protesting him, what do you think all those kids do for a living? They're all in tipping industries. All of them. They work at coffee shops that accept tips. They're waiters, waitresses, they get tipped. Busboys, all of that. Everybody that gets tipped. And if he gets rid of tax on tips, that's going to be huge for the young Americans. I mean, look, it's going to be big for all Americans, but especially young Americans, and the problem with them, they're very gullible to stuff. The left throws a bunch of junk at them and they believe it. Trump's this, Trump's that. He's only helping out his billionaire buddies. But let me tell you something. The minute that they stop having to pay tax on tips, that whole script is going to flip, man. And they're going to love him. And that's another part of his legacy that will be huge, because to get your face on Mount Rushmore, you're going to have to do some great things. Stop a war, change our trade, not only in America, but around the world for the next 30 to 50 years. But you also, Mount Rushmore is an American symbol, and you're going to have to be accepted by the people here, in my mind, to get that done. And if he pulls that off, that'll be total acceptance, because you can't deny him at that point. I don't care if you're in Cuckoo, California, if you're in Oregon, all those nutty states up there, Washington State, it won't matter, okay? All of a sudden, you don't have to pay taxes on your tips. That's a big deal. So we're going to see how it goes. I think the next couple months are going to reveal a lot on the tariffs. Whether they are going to get solidified or they're going to go away. I know that right now there's about 70 countries they say are waiting to deal with Trump on that, and I'm pretty sure that's the way he wants it. That's what he was expecting. The war in the Russian-Ukraine war, they're in talks right now. Those things can be kind of slow and grinding. I know they got the mineral deal they want with Zelensky, but now it's basically, you got to get Putin and Zelensky to stop, and that's the phase of the war they're working on right now. And so it's going to be interesting. The tax on tips, that's coming up in the tax bill that they have coming up now. They're saying there's a little bit of trouble in that, but I don't see. I mean, look, the Democrat Party is so damaged right now. I don't know if it hurts them to get damaged anymore, but I don't know how Democrats vote against, taking away tax on tips. I don't see how they could vote against that. I mean, yeah, they're in bad shape already, but that would put them in way worse shape. That's what every normal American wants. But we're going to see. But I like I said, I feel like the next few months are going to reveal a lot. So don't get over stressed out. Hang in there and we'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, if you like my video, please like and subscribe. Remember, I'm on Rumble as well. If you subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notifications button. All my videos will get sent to your phone, to YouTube or Rumble. And, like mine's got to think, we got to stick together, man. Create that network, get the word out there. But anyways, guys, this is Eddie for 321. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.